Hey, everybody, here we are. It's a late afternoon Tuesday edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull. It is Tuesday, January the 10th, 2023, and we're bringing back something I did for the first time last week because it went so well. I asked you all day today to send me questions via Twitter that you would like me to answer. It's your chance to ask me anything you want except for politics. We used to be sports or politics, ask the show. Now it's you could do sports, no politics. A couple people got a little personal with the questions in terms of sex life. I think I'll leave that alone, too. But anything else is fair game. That's all coming up. Your questions. If you sent me a question today, it will be answered as long as we have enough time. If by some chance I don't get to all the questions today, I'm gonna do this once a week because people seem to be having fun with it. So ask any wacky, crazy question except about politics or my sex life. That I'm going to leave alone, but everything else is fair game here on Ask the Bull or whatever the hell. I don't know. I've just made that up. That's very creative, I know. But the Bullpen with Adam the Bull starts next.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Bow, 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 bow. All righty, here we go. It's time for this week's edition of Ask the Bull Anything You Want, except for about my sex life and politics. Anything else is okay, so I will answer every other question, at least if I have time. If we run out of time, I'll save the rest for next week. But as long as I continue to get good questions, I'll continue to do this segment. So let's begin. The first question I got today, this morning, was from my own show's Twitter handle. The Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show says, where do you rank your UCSS Fantasy Football Championship among your life's greatest accomplishments? Well, let me say, I got to say it's very low because this was a foregone conclusion. I told you when we did a fantasy football draft at the TV station, at the TV show, that I would win. I guaranteed victory. And listen, I didn't have the best season of predictions here. Something's right, something's wrong. I blew it big time. I said the Steelers were going to be on the 500. Again, I bet against Tomlin and lost. Although Aditi Kinkabwala today had some harsh words on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show about the mediocrity of the Steelers, which was very interesting and very true, very accurate. So, no, but this was a no-brainer. I knew I was going to win. There's no match for my fantasy football prowess in Cleveland. I cannot be beat in the city of Cleveland, although I didn't win my Rocky River Dads League, if I'm being totally honest. But at least in the media. So there you go. So it's not a great accomplishment because it was something that I just assumed anything less than a championship would have been a massive, massive disappointment. All right. Next, that was the inappropriate question there. Okay, I like this question from my man Eddie Everhart. Why did I say that wrong? Brownstown 1217. He said, if you could live in the world of a movie for 1 week, which movie are you picking and why? Now, I've debated. I like to answer these questions kind of off the top of my head and not really prepare for them. I just think it's more interesting and fun that way. But this is a question I probably should have prepared an answer for. So I almost want to rethink about this one and come up with a good answer. I'm trying to think, what if you could live in the world of a movie for a week? Which movie are you picking and why? There's so many questions I have for Eddie about this. Could I die in this movie? Am I guaranteed to be still alive at the end no matter what happens during the week? Could I change the real world future? Does anything in the real world change based on me living in this movie for a week? I feel like I need the answers to those questions, Eddie, because if I could change the real world, then I'd go to some World War II movie and and kill Hitler, or pre-World War II and kill it. I don't know. I kind of want to be in the Braveheart world. I think that's cool, but like people are just dying left and right there. If I know there's a chance I could die. I don't want to go to the Braveheart world. Could I go into a porn movie? If I were 25, in great shape and single, then I might. But now, not anymore. I'm too old for that nonsense. But I feel like I need to really think about this more because, I'm thinking of different everything. So many movies now passing through my head. So Eddie, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna think about this longer, and I'm gonna answer this question next week. Feel free to ask another question next week, Eddie, but I'm going to answer this question next week. I feel like this is one of the few questions that spur of the moment's not good. I really need to think about this more to take it seriously. To give it its serious due, if you will. Okay, next up. So I'll get back to Eddie's question. Tino, at Tino_locker. I've been watching the Browns since 99. He's early 30s. Okay. You haven't suffered as much as many people, but you've suffered. All the time I've seen this team lose and not competing. What is it going to take for the Browns to be a consistently good team like everyone else in the AFC North? It's a great question. I don't know that there's an easy answer to that. I don't believe that intrinsically the Steelers and Ravens are just going to be great forever. They've been a lot of it's continuity and a lot of it's luck. The Ravens and the Steelers have good ownership, stable ownership, stability within the organization. Until you have that, you can't win consistently. This is one of the Bengals don't belong in the group with the Steelers and Ravens. They haven't been consistently competitive. They've had their ups and downs. I mean, right? They've had plenty. Bengals have had plenty of bad years. Even with Andy Dalton, they consistently went to the playoffs, but consistently lost. They're in a new era, but there's still a part of me, even as a Bengals fan, who says, how long can this last? As long as Joe Burrow's there, sure. But will they screw that up? Will they not pay him? Will he get hurt? Much like Browns fans, I am there's part of me expecting the other shoe to drop with the Bengals, or they won't keep the guys around him. The team will get bad. He'll get ticked like Carson Palmer did, and he'll want to leave eventually because they won't spend. So, I don't think the Bengals belong in that class with the Ravens and Steelers, even though they're the best of the teams now. But that's, at least temporary, or potentially temporary. The Browns it's hard because, honestly, I think for them to be consistent winners, you're probably going to need a better owner. But that's out of our hands. I think ultimately, to have consistency of success is to have good ownership that knows how to hire good people and stay out of their way, and consistency within the organization. That we always do things. This is the Steeler way. This is the Ravens way. There is no Browns way, because the Browns way changes every 2 minutes. And until you have that, you're going to ride this wave. And for the Browns, obviously there's been a lot more valleys than peaks. Well, a whole lot more. The peaks have been few and far between. But until you have that organizational philosophy, I hate to say culture because it sounds so cliche. I think winning creates culture. Right now you ask people, the Bengals have a good culture? You'd say yes. You wouldn't have said that 2 years ago. Well, what changed? They got Joe Burrow. They started winning games. I don't know that much has changed within the organization. I mean, not really. They've spent more money the last 2 years. I'll give them credit for that. But until the Browns I don't know that they can do it, honestly, without changing ownership, and that's not happening. Otherwise, if ultimately, though, you got to have the quarterback, right? Which is the most important thing. Since Tom Brady left New England, Patriots haven't won squat. Brady's been to the playoffs 3 times and won a Super Bowl. Patriots have been to the playoffs once and lost a game. All right. But it's a great question, Tino. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not a very, easy answer. Ol Yodi, at @Ol_Yodi tweets, where is the best pizza and why is it in Detroit? Now, I've heard about this Detroit pizza. I've never been to Detroit. So, the older me, even a couple of years ago, to say, Detroit pizza sucks, which is unfair. I might go there. I might think it sucks. If it's anything like Little Caesars, then it sucks. But I've never had pizza in Detroit, so I can't fairly ask or comment as to whether it's good or not. In terms of pizza here, oh gosh, I just tried a new pizzeria the other day, and it was very good. And I just got to double check that I got the right name of the place. I don't want to give another place credit for a pizza place that I tried. Citizen Pie on West 25th. I went there for the first time. I'd heard some good things about it. I went there for the first time this weekend. It was very, very good. Definitely makes my top 5 list of pizzerias in Northeast Ohio. It was really excellent. I love the 900-degree oven. I love that the crust was fantastic. It was some burn spots, which I love. That's not everybody's cup of tea, but I love that. So I thought the dough was top-notch. I thought the sauce was top-notch. The cheese was really good. I actually could have, if I had to make the pie over, I would have gotten it without the sausage. The sausage was fine. It wasn't my type of sausage. But the pizza, the in terms of crust, sauce, and cheese, as good as I've had. Obviously, Sweet Basil in Westlake is a place I've gone to for a long time. They have excellent pizza. Il Rayone in Ohio City is really good. Their customer service could be a little better, if I'm honest, but it's a really good place. The pizza's outstanding. And Forno out in Avon, really good pizza. Those are probably my favorites. I did go to Murata's on the east side once, and that was really good, but I haven't had it as often. Pizza 216 downtown is solid. I used to love Vincenza's downtown, but they've closed. My favorite pizzeria of all time is a place called, I was about to say another place. Wow. Oh, my God. What is happening to my brain? I just forgot my favorite pizzeria in Brooklyn. This is really freaking me out now. I've said the place 1,000 times. Oh, my God. What is happening to my head? I'm losing it. Now I'm going to have to look it up. I cannot believe this. I've told people 1,000,000 times to go there, and now it's just not coming to my brain. DeFara's. Oh, my God. Can't believe I can't think of it. I'm freaking out here a little bit, folks, that I could not think of my favorite pizzeria. DeFara's in the Midwood section of Brooklyn is phenomenal. There's some other really good. There's Joseph Bleecker, Totono's in Coney Island, Del Mar at Sheepshead Bay. I could go on and on. There was another place that my son and I went to in Brooklyn last time we were in. I had never been to before that was phenomenal. I can't think of the name of it right now. Paulie G's in Brooklyn is really good. It was called like 36 Table or something. Oh, man. I got to remember that. Well, at least it's not a local place. It doesn't really matter. It's going to drive me crazy if I can't think of the name of it. Anywho, that's my pizza. Chain pizza stinks. My boy Dustin Fox has been trying to get me into chain pizza forever. Not that I've never had chain pizza. You know, you get desperate, especially when you live in a Utica and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're hungry. You know, I've had chain pizza same as anybody, and I actually worked at multiple Pizza Huts, from the time I was 19 till I was 23, 24, believe it or not. But I would never choose to eat chain pizza of any kind. I don't think they're all desperate. They're all desperation plays to me. All right, I don't know if I'm going to get to every question because I just did a 7-minute diatribe on pizza. Let me take a break. Let me talk to you about Bet Online. Gambling now legal in Ohio. And betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, where are we? Let's see. Next question. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, delete that. Here we go. Okay. Next question. Bull. This is from Howard Feldenkris. Howard Feldenkris. I feel like it's an inappropriate name and I'm just saying it wrong. But anyway. Who in the Browns organization was really responsible for determining the Deshaun Watson acquisition was the necessary next move versus proceeding with an established free agent quarterback or drafting one, i.e. Pickett and the Steelers? Time will tell if the Browns made the right move with Deshaun Watson. But he was their only option to get a proven star quarterback. Is it possible he is somehow physically and or mentally damaged and will never be that player again? It's something I honestly did not consider. I probably should have. It's entirely possible. I am convinced that Deshaun Watson's going to be great next year. Now, maybe there's part of me that's just hoping, because I'm not going to lie, it's a total disaster if he's not. They're stuck with his contract. If he's not a star player, they're screwed. You look at Denver's situation, it's a mess. And Denver's actually had a really good defense this year, unlike the Browns. But Russell Wilson's got him screwed because he's not any good. Now, Deshaun Watson's a lot younger. I expect him to be better after not playing for much of 2 years. But we'll see. Who specifically was responsible for it? I can't say for sure. I'm going to say Andrew Berry. I know there's some people that think, who knows? With Jimmy, you never know for sure. I'm not sold that Kenny Pickett's going to be a top, elite level quarterback. I think he's at best a tier 3 quarterback, which it's hard to win with, but we'll see. Free agent quarterback, who was out there? There was nobody. Still here like a dumbass. All right. At Hirsch182 tweets, if you could make unilateral changes to MLB, what changes would you make? Would salary cap floor be the first thing? If I could make any changes I want to Major League Baseball, absolutely there'd be a salary cap and a salary floor. 100%. And that's coming from a guy who is very pro player. Now, my salary cap would be high. It would probably be $250 million would be the salary cap. My salary floor would be $150 million. Because if I had a salary cap of $250 million and a salary floor of $150 million, well, then there's no, it's like right now, the Mets payroll is 5-6 times what the Guardians payroll is. Well, if there was only $100 million between the top payroll and the bottom payroll, well, now you're talking less than 40% instead of 300 times. You know what I'm saying? So now there wouldn't be this huge disparity between the two teams. I would actually, I can't believe I'm saying this years later, but, I never thought I would have said this years ago. I would cut the season down. I'd make the season a little shorter. Times have changed. I think there are too many games at this point. I know it affects the records, but the records don't matter now anyway because steroids has destroyed all that. I would cut the season down. Teams would lose money, but now there'd be a cap at 250. So you wouldn't, some teams couldn't go crazy. I would cut the season to I'd cut about a month off the season, and and the playoffs are what they are. I would have the first round of the play. I like what they did last year in terms of playoffs. I would have the first round still be best of 3, and then I'd have everything else be best of 7. Not the 5 and then the 7-7. I would have 7-7-7. I'd have the salary cap, the salary floor. The DH day was something I wanted to do for a long time. That happens. What else would I do? I like a lot of the changes actually that the league's made. I would stick with the the ghost runner on second base in the regular season. I actually can't believe it, but I like it. I like the 3-batter minimum for the relief pitcher. I didn't think I'd like that. I do. I'm fine with the intentional walk change that's been made. I like that they're going to have a pitch clock. What I would do in September, used to have a 40-man roster in September, and then they said, okay, we'll just add 2 guys to 28. What I would do is have a 30-man roster in September, but you only have 26 active players for each game. So in other words, your other 4 starting pitchers are inactive for that game. But 4 guys get a shot at the majors instead of just 2. I would change, now this is very complicated, but I would change the system that encourages smaller market teams to keep guys in the minors longer to try to get them an extra year of a service time. I would make the service time related to age and not years with the organization, or maybe total years with the organization, not just in the majors, because it's the only sport where you're encouraged, the rules encourage you to keep guys in the minors, and that's bad for the sport. I could probably go on and on a little more with Major League Baseball. What else would I do? I'd have more double headers. I would cap ticket prices. I don't know. There's a lot of things. I could go on and on with some of the money stuff, but that's some of the basics right there. Quick break. I'll come back with some more of your questions right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Okay. Let's see what we got next. Brownstown Andy at Andy Piccone tweets, favorite place to vacation. I unfortunately haven't gone to a ton of vacations in my life. I've never left the country except for Canada. My favorite place that I've ever been to on vacation was my honeymoon, and that was in Hawaii. My wife and I went to 2 different islands. Maui, though, was my favorite island. Fortunately, we were there longer of the 2. Maui is my favorite place I've ever been to. It was magical. Now, part of that was my honeymoon, but it was not just that. It was beyond the magical place. So I'll say Maui. Let's see. CC at Planet C5 tweets, why, when an NFL game can be decided by 3 to 4 plays, the sports media dismiss as conspiracy theory the questioning of field flipping, non-reviewable DPI calls? I don't really understand this question. What's the conspiracy theory? My theory on I don't know what I'm not really sure what you're asking there, CC, but I'll say this about non-reviewable calls. To me, there should be no such thing. You talk about if I had autonomy to change things in the NFL, here would be how I would run replay, and I have no idea what. First of all, the whole catch rule is stupid. There should never been made a rule as to what is a catch. A football move, a second step, it's all stupid. We've all played football at some level, right? I played in the schoolyard. You may have played in the NFL. We all know what a catch is when we see it. It's hard to define it, and they screwed everything up by defining it. What I would do is I would have a replay official, not in New York, in the booth for all 16 NFL games or however many games there are being played that week. In fact, I'd have 2. The league is printing money. Have 2 officials in the booth. They are looking at every single play. They communicate with the head ref on the field. At the end of every play, they have however much time, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, I don't know, to say, hey, we got something here. There was a hold on that play. There was a pass interference. That was a bad call. Immediately correct it. None of this, we're going to look at replay for 5 minutes. Replay to me is made to correct an obvious bad call. If it's too close to call, if I don't know the right answer in less than 30 seconds, baseball, football, any sport, move on. If it's that close, we don't need to replay it. Marty Commertz tweets, at Marty Commertz, Adam, who was the one player on the Browns who surprised you the most, and who was one player on the Browns that left you the most disappointed. Well, surprised me the most, without a doubt, was Jacoby Brissett. I mean, to me, it's not even close. Jacoby Brissett, to me, was a slappy quarterback his whole career. I never thought he was any good. And he did a tremendous job for the Browns this year. And at one point, he struggled a little bit at times. And at one point, I was like, let's bench him and play. And that was crazy. He really did a good job. He led well, which has been a problem on this team. My backup choice would be Martin Emerson. I didn't have much expectation for him as a rookie. And he was one of the Browns' better players. He really was. I think outside of Myles Garrett, I could argue he played better than anybody on the Browns' defense. Biggest disappointment has got to be Deshaun Watson. Now, maybe that's not fair, but that's it. I thought he was going to be excellent in these final 6 games. I thought he might struggle in a game or two and then play great. He didn't. He didn't have one great game. He was great he was good in the second half against Washington. That was it. Everything else was mediocre or worse. Second biggest disappointment, Denzel Ward, no doubt. He would have been the biggest if it wasn't for Deshaun. Denzel, I expected Denzel to play like a Pro Bowler every year. He didn't. He wasn't good enough this year. He was a huge disappointment. So that was an easy one. All right. Scott Schultz, at Scooter14D. How do you think Neto's role will change when Rubio comes back? Not that I think he's a better option than Rubio, but he's recently been a nice spark off the bench. He's done a nice job. He's filled a nice role. He's not important to the team. He's a good, extra spare part. He's, again, done a nice job, but Ricky Rubio is much better, much more important. He will have no role, or at least no legitimate role, when he comes back. It's hot today. At Groovy Squirrel tweets, let's say you find yourself on the corner of Rockside and Independence, and you know you have a ribeye with whipped potatoes and sautéed asparagus. Do you really fill up on the lobster bisque? First of all, I'm not an asparagus guy there, Groovy Squirrel, so I would not eat the asparagus. But you know where I'd be? At Delmonico's, baby! And I would eat the lobster bisque. Go Cavs, at Z Cleve Sports. What are a few things you really miss about doing radio? I did radio in some form or another, whether in college or professionally, for so many years, right? I was on the radio actually the first time in the early 90s, briefly. But from 1996 through 2022 on April 1st, I was on the radio, all the time. And I loved it. And I never would have imagined doing anything but radio. I never had any desire to work in TV. I still think of myself in a lot of ways as a radio guy. What do I miss doing radio? I miss taking the calls, I guess. That's the one thing. And I miss the guys I worked with. Or the guys I worked with directly. I miss Jonathan, Keith, and Dustin. I don't see those guys very often. We still speak. I speak to John, all three of those guys from time to time. Dustin and Jonathan a little more. So I miss the guys and Dave Spano, the guys I worked with. That's not a knock at the other guys there because, I still speak to Lima, but I didn't see Lima at work. Obviously the last 2 years there, I wasn't going into the office, but Lima and Ken worked the morning, so I didn't really see them. But the guys I saw all the time, I miss, spending time with those guys. The other stuff, corporate radio and all that stuff, I don't miss any of that. Doing a 5-hour show, which is absurd. Nobody should be doing a 5-hour show. It's a disgrace that any radio shows are 5 hours. I don't miss that. I miss the fans, the interaction, and most especially the guys. Alex, at Golf and Stunks, tweets, is Joe Burrow the best quarterback in the league? Now, I might be a little biased, but actually, I don't think he's the best quarterback in the league. I think he's the second best. But that may make me biased because there's a couple. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't really think there's any debate there. I think the debate is who's the second best quarterback. To me, the debate is only between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. I don't think there's anybody else in the debate. Some people would argue Herbert. At some point, I hope we can argue Deshaun Watson. If it were me, again, I'll admit I'm a little biased, but I didn't pick Burrow 1. No, I would say Joe Burrow is the second best behind Mahomes, and then I'd have Josh Allen 3. Dave T. asks, why does Cleveland media refuse to ask the Browns any real tough questions? Always the same BS. I gave Cameron Justice. She asked a question about smart, tough, and accountable. To be fair, and I get frustrated with the questions too, but it's easy for me to get frustrated because I'm not the one asking the questions. The truth is, the people the media members that cover the Browns all the time have a tricky job to do because they have to have relationships with the people in Berea to be able to get the information they need. So they don't want to be jerks. There's a nice way to ask. I don't think they always ask softballs. It's a tricky spot, and the problem is in the end that Berry and Stefanski give you no answers anyway. Alex at Alex McCauley 3 says, do you think Jim Schwartz will be the next DC for the Browns? I think he could, but I don't think he will. I think it's going to be Brian Flores. At least I'm hopeful. Okay, let's see. Where are we here? No, that's not a question. Are there any Evan Dana Miller? Am I running out of time here? I'm trying to get through all the questions. Oof, I'm already over 30 minutes. Let's see. I'll try to get the rest in real quick. Evan Dana Miller. Are there any positives you could take away from this Cleveland Browns season? Not much. Not much. I mean, what can I take away positive? What's heading in the right direction? Deshaun Watson didn't play well. Nick Chubb was great, but, it's another year of wear and tear. Same with Myles Garrett. I can't think of anything. I wish I could, but I can't. Chris at Chris Curvi. Let's see. This might be the last one. Steve Dazzo at S. Dazzo. Who has better hair from your alma mater, Brockport? Casey Bortnick or Ryan Nobles? Steve, Casey, Ryan, Brian Koziel, a bunch of guys you guys don't know. You may know Ryan Nobles. He used to be on CNN. Now he is on NBC News. Excellent news reporter. He used to cover the White House. He's a total pro. He's fantastic. I knew in college he was going to be a star in the news field. Casey does news in Buffalo, TV reporter in Buffalo. My friend Brian is a sports guy in Buffalo as well. We all went to school in Brockport, which is not far from Buffalo. Steve, I'm gonna have to go with Ryan Nobles on the hair. Nobody can top that Ryan Nobles hair, man. All right, last question. If I didn't get to yours, voice of the voiceless. Hey, Bull, how do the American League MLB favorites this year? Who are the Major League Baseball American League favorites? I think I did this last week. I'm gonna try to get all right. I got the Guardians, the Yankees, and the Astros as the favorites. Devin tweets, do you think NIL deals will make it easier for college players to hold out for a CBA in the future? I think it could. They'll have more money coming in, yeah. Browns for life. Hey, Bull, if the NFL reinstates Henry Ruggs, should the Browns go for him? He brings speed to the offense. He's in jail, so that's not an option. Finally, let me ask. I got to call him in. I may have missed. I was scanning through quickly. We are way over, but I'm going to get one more in. Here we go. This is a 3-part question. Chris at Chris Curva. Question 1. Is Darryl Ryder actually dangerous? No. Darryl Ryder, that nickname started for those who don't know. And by the way, everybody calls Darryl Ryder dangerous now, a nickname I started. The reason that nickname started is 11 years ago now, or 10 and a half years ago. When was it? It was May of 2012. So, yeah, 10 and a half years ago. We were playing pickup basketball, Darryl, myself, a bunch of other guys from the radio station at the time. And Darryl and I kind of just, I say collided. We didn't really collide. We just kind of banged legs. And my Achilles tendon tore. Now, it was on the way out. I've always joked that Darryl tore my Achilles. He didn't actually do it. Darryl is not dangerous. I've busted Darryl's balls on the radio show for years. But the truth is, Darryl is a super sweet guy, super nice guy. I care a lot for Darryl. He's a really nice human being, and he's not dangerous at all. Question 2. You recently said 92.3 The Fan is struggling. Have you reached out, Dustin? 92.3 The Fan is not struggling. The station is doing very well. I was annoyed the other day. The truth is, I was annoyed the other day that G. Bush went on, was a guest on the station, and somebody in management at the station told G. Bush that he was on there, even though he's a host there on the weekend, to talk about his rant that went viral on our show, and management decided he wasn't allowed to mention the name of the show. I think that's very petty. I have great relationships at 92.3 The Fan. I love my time there. It was great, and I still mention all the guys. I still have all the great relationships. I'm not afraid to say 92.3 The Fan. I love the station. It's not struggling. I've talked about it many times, and I think it's lame that management's being petty about not being able to mention our show when we're not afraid to mention theirs. That's silly. And have I reached out to Dustin and offered him a job to join UCS? I'm going to have to no comment that because of certain reasons. Obviously, I think it's pretty obvious we'd love to have Dustin on the show. Unfortunately, that hasn't been able to happen to this point. Brian tweets, ever been to a Lake County Captains game? I certainly have. I'm out of time. I'm sorry, folks. Thanks for all the great questions. We'll do it again next week. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.